I'm letting you all into my house a little bit more. For all the Whovians, this is my son's poster right there. So anyway, topic for today. So how do you do consent in a session? Sometimes people think there's only one way, that you need to consent every little thing. Oh, my cat's here. You hear my cat? Here, do you want to see her? Okay, she doesn't want to be seen. Okay. Anyway, so I want to go through a few different ways of how to do consent, why it matters, that you learn your practitioner's way. As a client, we often really don't communicate always very well, like that we're different than other people. You may meet some practitioners that are like, let's just jump in and cuddle. Like everybody knows what that means, which isn't always true. And I just got some messages today from someone who's like, how much is it going to cost for me to touch your breasts and see you in a thong? And I'm like, that's not happening. No. Because consent, right? Like we get to consent. This isn't just a free-for-all everything but the kitchen sink sex, thing. Like this is not what this is. So what does consent look like? Okay, there's one way where clients and practitioners ask for every little specific thing. So it's like, may I touch your hair? You have to wait for the yes. Yes, okay. May I touch your neck? Would you put your hand on my chest? So like all these, like every little piece of like touch or ways of connecting have to be requested. That is one way to do it, but that is not always. Now, if you go to cuddle party, it's really important to do that you ask for every specific thing, 'cause specifically in the instructions in cuddle party, you want to ask for every little thing, but not in a session necessarily. Again, it depends on your practitioner and also depends on your boundaries. So that's if you want to be really, really strict, which is an option, but it's not, I think, customary that we all do it that way. Another way to do it is before the session begins, you create what's called a touch contract. So you can go and say, I'm okay with you touching my hair, but not my face. I'm okay with you, where my skin is showing in my arms, but not my legs. Like you can go and explain very clearly what you're okay with, what you're not okay with. And then the other person does the same thing. And then you find kind of things that you can do together and you go and do the things. Creating touch contract is fantastic if you have that kind of time. Often in a session, we have 1 hour with a client. So that first session, clients may look at spending some time. Again, if your practitioner is expecting this really lengthy intro session, or I should say intro conversation session, that like maybe half the time, half your hour, you're just talking about boundaries and consent, like there's half of your hour. So make sure you know ahead of time if there's going to be really lengthy intro. Now, the next thing you can do, this is kind of what I do, is I just ask, are there any boundaries you have? Well, let me go back to the touch contract real quick. You have to also know a lot about yourself to be able to say, this is what I like, what I don't like, right? So often what I do is I ask clients, is there any like injuries or traumas or like any boundaries, parts of your body you do not want touched? Now, I assume that everybody is very clear that we're not touching genitals, so I don't even mention it. I just like, yes, before you walked in here what this is about. So like I don't even mention it. So they don't even have to say it. But they may say something like, don't touch my back or my ears. Or like, especially people that are really self-aware about their sexual arousal, they'll say like, don't touch my feet because it's very arousing for me. Like I appreciate knowing those things. So they may say their boundaries and then I say mine, like my butt crack is off limits. And I feel funny. I try to tell it to everybody. I don't try to judge the person and like say, well, they don't need to hear about my butt crack. But like, so sometimes I'm looking at someone like, I know I'm about to say something that's making possibly an assumption about you, but please understand there's nothing about you. Like, just don't touch my butt crack. And I knew like, especially like, okay, I'm going to make a huge gender generalization. I tell women this too. Like, I understand you're not going to reach for my butt crack. You're not going to put your hand down my pants. I just need to say it anyway, because this is a thing that happens sometimes. And like, that's a boundary that I have. It is what it is. Okay. So then you can do it from like, what are the boundaries? I also ask afterwards, like, what do you want? Like what, because I don't want to end with like the no's. I want to end with like, what's the yes? So I'll say, what is it that you, like, what parts of your body do you want touched? And again, I hope a client's adolescent doesn't show up and like their inner adolescent doesn't say like, oh, I touch my junk or whatever, touch my genitals. So if they do that, then I know, okay, I know what I'm dealing with. Most time, times people are like, they really don't know, or they'll say, actually, they really don't know. Like, no, everywhere. I just like everything, like whatever. And I don't expect people to have a lot of awareness around things that they do like, because our society doesn't encourage like platonic touch, right? So I'll say what I like. Like I say, usually I try to leave as much skin, like arm skin and a little bit of my neck and my face, and I say like I like all my skin touched. And if you see skin, touch it. I'm giving you permission. That is really okay with me. And it just again creates some like, these are okay things to ask for. This is okay to like enjoy this type of touch. So yeah, say what you want. Now, there are some practitioners, and this can happen to me like after many sessions, where I got a little live comment from my friend Susan. Thank you. Thank you. Where you're like on the go boundaries, consent. Let's just like see what happens. All right, they say, I'm here for a cuddle session. You're like, great, let's cuddle. And you don't know what you're doing. But okay, everyone kind of has an idea of what cuddling is. I think they all have this idea in their minds of what cuddling is. I don't try to make any assumptions. I assume that what cuddling, like, tell me what you want exactly. Like, what kind of positions do you want to get into? And so, but sometimes it gets practitioners out there like, let's cuddle, and they just get into like body locking, and then they do boundaries on the go, which I think is kind of complicated, because like, what if you suddenly find yourself in a position or receiving a type of touch that you don't like? So ideally, you have trust in these boundaries on the go sessions where you can tell someone, I don't like this touch. Or I'm uncomfortable, or let's try something else. Or you can literally take their hand, if it's here, and move it over here, right? Like, that takes trust to do that. And I really fear there's a lot of practitioners that are tolerating touch. And I also fear there's a lot of clients that are going along with their practitioner because they think, well, they're the experts. And this isn't what we want to create for our industry. And I know this happens because it happens on the massage table. I mean, how many of you, raise your hand, have been in a massage where you didn't like the kind of massage they were giving you, but when did you feel like you could say, I don't like it. Can you do something different? Like, we just don't do that. We just like tolerate and go along with it. That happens also in cuddle sessions. And I think to do boundaries on the go, it's going to take a lot more than than I think where we're at right now culturally. So, continuing, so one thing that does happen for me is after the first couple sessions where we've clarified what we like, we don't like, then I think we kind of do more boundaries on the go. We do more of a flow, we trust, we kind of have an idea about each other. I kind of get a sense of what they're looking for. One of the things that I fear, though, when we get into that is that we're going to get into a rut, and it's going to feel like, okay, it's the same thing every single time. And so it's a great idea to keep checking in and asking, is this still what you like, or would I try something new? It's really hard for even me to do that, because I'm comfortable. I think this is great. I don't know that internally they're like, this is really boring. Like, we did this the last 3 sessions. I want something else. But clients don't tell me. And then they just don't call me anymore. I'm all like, I'm waiting in my phone, no more text messages from them. I get it. They get bored. And so consent makes things lively and interesting and exciting, because you're constantly wondering, like, what else can I ask for? It's really great if people that practice what's called a 3-minute game. If you're not familiar with that, Google it, where you're asking the question, how would you like to be touched for 3 minutes? Or how would you like to touch me for 3 minutes? And creating some lively workshop-y kind of, games that makes things fun. Otherwise, again, you're just kind of coming into this like very typical cuddle position. It can get boring. To some people, boring is fantastic. It's exactly what they're looking for. Again, talking, ideally talking. So you can work on your communication skills, asking for what you want, being able to hear a no, or like working on, again, all the things about human interactions in a session as much as you want, or you can do none of it. And I mean, both of those are possible in a cuddle session. No judgment. Just my hope is that you're not tolerating anything. And that you're really enjoying the experience. And then of course you're getting what you paid for, right? So if you're paying for Platonic so that you're getting that, and that you're really satisfied. Lastly, pointing at you, I know who you are, the boundary pushers. The ones that you do everything right, like you do all the consent stuff and there's clarity and you like say, okay, like don't put your hand up my shirt, and like that, yes, of course, and then they do it and you're like, but we talked about this. So those people, I have 4 children, so it's like, oh, they're a child. Like I was like, they just really want to know what it's like to push a boundary. And I sigh. I'm like, okay, this isn't okay. Like they're looking for, and I hate to say it, like looking for someone to tell them no. And hearing a no can make some people feel really safe. It is what it is. So we don't quite understand. I try not to judge the boundary pushers. And they're always like, oh, so sorry. And I'm like, so no shame, right? But no. That's a really tricky one. I think it's for the advanced practitioner to think about, to explore, for us to discuss together what they're really looking for. Again, I've heard that they're looking to know that they can trust you. And a boundary push is this, will you tell me no? It's a way to create trust. It's also just someone being an asshole. Sorry for an arsehole. Whatever. Like, there's all of it's possible. But just know that, again, there's so much happening in a session. I try to receive people just as they are and work with them, what feels right for them, what feels right for me, and hopefully we have a session that it's working and that we're bringing more light and love into this industry. Okay, I'm out of here. If you have more ways of how to do consent, I'm sure there's more games, more ideas, whatever, just comment below. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, like my page at least. All right, love y'all.